The story begins in Europe, just after the French Revolution of 1789. The revolution spread powerful ideas: liberty, equality, and fraternity. Welcome to Timeless Europe. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. These principles inspired not only the fight against monarchy, but also made thinkers question inequality in everyday life. By the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution had transformed Europe. Factories and machines brought wealth to some, but misery to millions of workers. Long hours, low pay, and unsafe conditions became the reality of industrial life. Out of this suffering grew the demand for change, the demand for socialism, the rise of socialist thought. Early socialists, sometimes called utopian socialists, believed that cooperation and shared ownership could create fairer societies. Robert Owen, for example, built model communities for workers in Britain. In France, Louis Blanc argued for cooperatives where workers could manage their own industries. But it was Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels who gave socialism its strongest foundation. In their 1848 book, The Communist Manifesto, they described history as a struggle between classes: the bourgeoisie, or factory owners, and the proletariat, the workers. Marx believed that one day workers would overthrow capitalism and build a classless, communist society, socialism, in Europe. In the late 19th century, socialist ideas spread rapidly across Europe. Political parties were formed in Germany, France, and other countries. Workers joined trade unions, demanding better wages, safer workplaces, and shorter hours. But socialism didn't look the same everywhere. Some groups wanted gradual reforms through elections. These were called social democrats. Others believed only revolution could end inequality. These were the Marxists. Russia before revolution. While socialism was gaining ground in Europe, Russia looked very different. It was still largely agricultural, and peasants lived under poverty and oppression. Until 1861, many were serfs, tied to the land and controlled by landlords. Industry developed slowly, but when factories did appear, conditions for workers were extremely harsh. Here, socialist ideas began to spread among students, intellectuals, and workers, planting the seeds of revolution. The Russia Revolution of 1917. In 1917, after years of discontent, war losses, and famine, the Russian people rose up. In the February Revolution, Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate, ending centuries of monarchy. Later in the October Revolution, the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power. Their promise was simple but powerful: peace, land, and bread. To soldiers, peace. To peasants, land. To workers, bread. And this promise turned into action, building a socialist state. Once in power, the Bolsheviks began reshaping Russia. Factories, banks, and land were taken over by the state. Private property was abolished. By 1922, Russia had become the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the world's first socialist state. This inspired movements across the world. But while many European countries followed democratic socialism, Russia followed the path of revolutionary socialism, creating a one-party communist state. Key differences. So what's the difference between socialism in Europe and in Russia? In Europe, socialism mostly grew through reforms, parliaments, and worker rights movements. In Russia, socialism came through revolution, led by the Bolsheviks, and transformed into a radical restructuring of society. The rise of socialism in Europe and Russia shows us how ideas can shape nations. In Europe, it gave birth to movements for justice and democracy. In Russia, it created a revolution that changed the course of world history. Socialism was more than a theory. It was a response to inequality, a vision of fairness, and a hope for a better tomorrow.